Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. The Beatles sang "I Want to Hold Your Hand," but Melania Trump says, "Nope." We look at the shade being thrown by the First Lady on President Trump. The MeToo movement begins rocking Bollywood. We're in New Delhi with the details. Malaria is a disease which kills far more than it should. We look at how social media can help eradicate it and at the science which may wipe it out entirely. And we'll tell you how this collapsible building based on the Japanese art of origami could help people after natural disasters. Well, at the top of the newsfeed, and hashtag awkward, that moment when your bae won't hold your hand. Now, for most of us, it's a passing moment of cringe when you can talk through it, but when you're the President of the United States and your wife gives you the "get off of me," oh boy. And it's not the first time, remember this, when they went to Israel. Now, I'm no expert on relationships or body language, but I think it's fair to say she is less than enthusiastic about having to be around him. Could it have something to do with the rumours of his affairs with adult film stars? Who can say? But Trump isn't the coolest guy to be around if you don't want to be made to look a fool. Take a look at this.
We have to make him perfect. He is perfect. In fact, I'll get that little piece of dandruff off.
Well, that's one president removing dandruff from the shoulder of another in the glare of the global media. Beyond the weirdness, this kind of psycho power play is enough to keep a team of analysts busy for a month. And well, in fact, we spoke to a body language analyst. Here's what she said.
It was clear that they wanted to show us this good chemistry, they have a good relationship, they find each other on the same line. But there was this exaggerating power on the handshake that it was really an extra, and first it was controlled by one and then by the other one. It's really, there is this alpha male, like you're saying, coming out and saying, yes, we are on the same line, I'm a bit more father of you, I am more powerful of you. There is a game of power that it was going on, but I will say pretty on the same line. It was fluttering, a bit from one side, a bit from the other one. I didn't see one more. I mean, Macron found his space. I think he proved himself that he was not just a little son.
Macron isn't the only world leader who's faced the Trump handshake. You must remember this. This is Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The best part about this is Mr. Abe's face once he finally gets his hand back. Look again. Oh, thank you very much. And here, for some reason, Mr. Trump thinks it's acceptable to hold Prime Minister of Britain Theresa May's hand. Now, she was roasted online and in Parliament for that moment. But one president who didn't fall into the Trump trap was President Erdogan. Now, I want you to watch this closely because Cumhurbaşkanı employs a clever trick to control the handshake. As you can see, his index finger is extended. Now, you can try this yourselves. That gives you control of the handshake. You can dominate the shaker. So, sharp or checkmate, as they say.
Mr. President.
Well, let's have a look at what else is trending on social media. Now, detail of a Facebook post of a man who killed 10 people with a van in Toronto have surfaced. They reveal a dark subgroup of men who've collected online under the title incel, that's involuntarily celibate. The man who's in custody for the murder of those 10 people professed to being part of this dark corner of humanity. It's ANZAC Day, the day troops from Australia and New Zealand began a failed attempt to invade Turkey during the First World War. Our Kim Vanel is in Gallipoli at the memorial event.
So this is Çanakkale. This is the highest point that the ANZACs reached during their invasion of Turkey. You can see behind me, they're about to start preparing for the New Zealand-only service. This is a really important day for New Zealanders and for Australians as they kind of associate it with the creation of a separate national identity, and at the same time was important also for their indigenous populations. Turkey obviously sees this very, very differently. This was an invasion, and it was an invasion. And more than 80,000 Turkish soldiers died, more than 40,000 ANZAC soldiers died, ANZAC standing for Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. So it's an important day for both sides. The 25th of April marks the start of the Gallipoli campaign, whereby the ANZACs came ashore accidentally to the wrong spot and were just, it was the worst possible place they could have landed, and they were slaughtered. So yeah, a really important day for New Zealanders, Australians and Turks alike.
Now, the MeToo movement in India, we've told you about some of the horrific crimes that have been committed against women in recent weeks there. Some, like the cases of the 8-year-old who was killed in Kashmir, are going through the courts. But countless more are unreported and as yet uncovered. Now, a hugely successful choreographer has defended what's known as the casting couch, and people are finally facing up to the misogyny that's rife in Bollywood.
At a time when thousands of women the world over are using the hashtag #MeToo to speak out about their experiences with sexual harassment at the workplace, a renowned Indian choreographer has gone on to defend the casting couch, an experience whereby powerful men in India's film fraternity have been known to ask for sexual favors in exchange for work. Here's what Saroj Khan said. She said, "The casting couch provides livelihood. Taking advantage of a girl," she says, "is done with her consent." She also goes on to say women are not sexually abused and merely dumped, and her defense is at least the women who are raped in this manner are given a livelihood. And that shocking comment has invited a barrage of criticism on social media. You have this cartoon that's been doing the rounds of a director saying lights, camera, sounds off, start action, and an aspiring actress who's giving her audition saying here, "I can't believe someone thinks I actually have a choice in all of this." You've got Vivek Agnihotri, a renowned director with the Indian film fraternity, saying not just the casting couch, but any kind of exploitation of anyone is wrong. There can't be any debate on this. And in light of Saroj Khan's defense, you also had a former parliamentarian saying that sexual exploitation and harassment happens in the Indian parliament as well, something that Shiny Iyer is quoting. And she goes on to ask, wonder if anyone will be brave enough to say Me Too in India as well.
Now, today is World Malaria Day, and normally on these kind of world days, I make a glib comment and wish you a good one, but not this one. World Malaria Day focuses the world's attention on fighting a disease that kills too many people, especially in 2018, and especially because scientists are doing things like this.
If we can really show how the drugs work, that they really work, and then move towards, in vivo studies of those drugs, maybe even towards preclinical testing of those drugs and their ability to stop people passing on malaria, that gets me really excited.
Dr. Kaseti Adamsu is the CEO of Rollback Malaria. Doctor, good to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us. My first question, how is the internet age, the connected world we live in, helping in your fight against this disease that's been killing people for millennia?
We are using social media to increase awareness, to engage civil societies and communities in the fight against malaria. And this is particularly important now as we are seeing complacency and the slipping down of malaria as a political priority in many of the endemic countries. So community engagement using social media platforms is one of the avenues we use to encourage political commitment and civic engagement in the fight against malaria.
Where do you think that complacency comes from, Doctor, many of us, of course, have heard of malaria. We know that it's a disease that kills people. As our package said, it kills hundreds of thousands of children in Africa every year. Why do you think that some governments are now becoming complacent in their fight against it?
Because the last 15 years, we have seen unprecedented progress in the fight against malaria. We have saved 7 million lives. The burden of malaria has been reduced by nearly 50%. Mortality has declined by 63%. So malaria has been, the greatest public health success story of our time. So in many of the countries, it is not as visible as it used to be, 15 years ago, because malaria continuously affects, vulnerable groups and communities that are in the far-flung corners of, endemic countries.
Absolutely. Okay, Doctor, I wish you all the best of luck in your work. Thank you for joining us. All right, let's take you around the world for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. The European Union wants to bring in an older age restriction for WhatsApp. Currently, users must be 13, but the EU wants to change that to 16. Now, in a couple of weeks, a new update will be released asking you to confirm your age. It's not clear how the app or the EU will verify that you are over 16. The Smithsonian Museum has shown off its new robot. It's called Pepper, and it has proximity sensors so it can greet people as they walk by or engage in conversation if you're there on your own and like talking to basic AIs. But Pepper reminded my producer of this guy. He's also a Pepper. They're robots made by the Japanese conglomerate SoftBank. And this one was called Fabio, bizarrely. And he was fired from his gig at a supermarket in Edinburgh for being useless. Example, when asked where the milk was, it said, in the fridge. Well, obviously. He was also giving out unwanted high fives, and most unforgivable, he was greeting customers with, "Hi, gorgeous." Now, if you've ever been to Scotland, you'll know that is highly inappropriate. And Meek Mill has rung the freedom bell before a Philadelphia Sixers game after being released from prison. He'd been incarcerated on a decades-old drug and gun possession charge and was rearrested and jailed in November for a parole violation. His violation was for reckless driving while he was shooting a music video. His real name is Robert Rameek Williams, and his case has been used to highlight the justice system in the US and its unfairly prejudicial nature against African Americans. The case against him fell apart because the police officer who arrested him lied. And the musician John Mayer did a tutorial on doing smoky eye makeup on his Instagram, and people were loving it. He listened to fans' requests on how to do the perfect smoky eye, and as an influencer, made sure it was clear he was using a new Chanel eyeshadow. Now, two words that may sound like an oxymoron: origami, skyscraper. But as you're about to see, it's the innovation of a bunch of architects, and it could be used to help people hit by natural disasters. Now, remember yesterday we told you about the super successful Turkish drama called Dileriş Ertuğrul? Well, it turns out that as well as watching the show in the tens of millions, some people like to get a little bit more involved. And that was just the PG stuff we could show you. It turns out people have quite a thing for recording themselves getting way overexcited watching the show. These clips themselves have been watched millions and millions of times. I need to know where they're getting the swords. That's all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to us with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm, as always, at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.